Hello, I'm author Ken L. Burke, and I'm here to do a reading for you from my latest mystery thriller, Too Many Suspects. Chapter 1. My plan unfolded in the exact way I had envisioned, until it didn't. Her surprise confession turned my world upside down, and my life would never be the same. The background noise in the busy diner evaporated as the universe collapsed to just me and her. What? Sitting bolt upright and struggling to maintain composure, the question escaped a mouth now devoid of all moisture. Her eyes turned frigid. When you disappeared, I was pregnant with your child. What are you talking about? My outburst, too loud for this public setting, silenced all conversations at other tables. The missing youthful sparkle in her lovely dark eyes returned, but not for me. Lights reflected off tear-filled eyes. A white napkin became a tissue and stood out against her olive complexion as she dabbed under her glasses. We had been talking about getting engaged after graduation. I wanted you to ask me because you wanted to marry me, rather than because you felt obligated. So I waited to tell you until after you proposed to me. Instead, you blew out of town and abandoned me without even a goodbye. I never heard from you again. The edge in her tone cut through the layers of protection built up over years of painful relationships. The way I remember it, you were the one doing all the talking about getting married. Besides, how can you be sure it's mine? Her eyes turned dark and her jaw clenched. How could you even ask that? You were my first and only until you left. I thought you knew me better than that. Tears again pooled in the corners of her dark eyes. I longed to take her in my arms and tell her how beautiful she was, but fear of rejection mixed with self-disgust paralyzed me. Her words reverberated inside my head without congealing. Nothing made sense. How could this have happened? Was the child mine? I needed certainty. I don't understand. We always used a condom. Ronnie recoiled and shook her head. Condoms aren't 100%. Her unexpected revelation brought back memories that had haunted me for 20 long years. Memories of dumping her out of haunting fear of commitment. She had wanted to get married. All I knew about marriage was the hell I went through for 7 long years before my parents ended their misery, and then the nightmare of my own failed marriage. My marriage had been doomed from the start, a victim of my suppressed passion for this gorgeous creature who sat across from me. My wife was nothing like Ronnie and never could live up to my memory of her. My obsession drove me to the edge of insanity, or at least crazy enough to believe I could waltz back into Ronnie's life now, after all these many years, and sweep her off her feet. In an instant, I formulated a revised plan. I would pick up the pieces and become a role model for this child I had fathered years ago. What's his name? Macho me assumed I would have had a son to carry on the bloodline, name and all. We had a girl. I named her Lorelei. Her words seemed forced. I knew nothing about fatherhood. Mine had been an absentee parent traveling on business most of the time. But it seemed only logical a good father would show interest in their child. Can I meet her? Ronnie couldn't speak for a moment. When she did, sobs broke through. She died about a month ago. The sheriff's office classified it as suicide. Her grief reminded me of war scene pictures where a heartbroken mother clutches the lifeless body of her child in grief. I searched for words to demonstrate deep empathy for this woman I still loved. It sounds like you don't believe it was suicide. No, I don't. She set her eyes and spoke with conviction. Lorelei was too full of life to shoot herself. She hated guns and would never touch one. I'm so sorry, Peaches. It slipped out before I could catch myself, but it felt good to use my old pet name for her. Her eyes locked on me in a harsh glare. I'd crossed a line and scrambled to recover. After all these years, why tell me now? I studied her lovely face. She had aged well over the past 20 years. Lions and crow's feet highlighted a face that had lost the sharpness of youth. Red-framed glasses imposed by the wages of life masked the true beauty of her dark eyes. She no longer matched the sexy femme fatale in my detective novel based on her. As she brushed her long hair back, big, penetrating black eyes softened. Those eyes were what first attracted me. They still captivated me. I laid my hand on hers to offer comfort. She recoiled, the diamond ring scratching my hand. I hadn't noticed her modest engagement ring and accompanying wedding band. The last I knew, she had divorced and was single. Had she remarried, or was she just wearing the ring from her failed marriage to ward off unwanted male attention? I hoped for the latter, but the timing didn't seem right to inquire. She had recently lost a daughter and was still grieving. I tried to process her blockbuster surprises. "I'm so sorry, Ronnie. You appear to be in a lot of pain over your loss. What can I do?" I wanted to take her in my arms and console her. She sat bolt upright and assumed a more formal air. "I realize it's asking a lot, especially after so long without connecting." "What, Peach?" I caught myself. "What do you want me to do?" Hope surged. Maybe she wanted me as much as I lusted for her. I felt the need to help her but couldn't offer her counsel. Not having children, I couldn't share any experiences or offer any advice. I sucked at marriage, as my ex-wife would testify. What could I do for her but love her? How could I let her know how much I cared? "Would you look into Lorelei's death? Would you do it for me, for old time's sake? As a favor, I mean." The meekness of her smile exposed discomfort in asking. The request stunned me. "You mean investigate her death? Ronnie, I'm not a detective. I'm a washed-up dentist with foolish dreams of becoming a best-selling author. What makes you think I could investigate your daughter's death?" "Our daughter's death." Her silence scorned me more than her verbal admonishment. The sudden discovery I had fathered a daughter needed time to sink in. I didn't have a clue how to respond. "I read your book. It's all about this detective who solves a murder. So you must know how to investigate a crime. You researched for the book, right?" "Not really, unless you count binge-watching Pink Panther movies. A detective who reviewed my book said I should be arrested for impersonating a mystery writer. You've read it. It's awful." I wondered if she suspected she was the lead female character in my book. "It's not that bad. Besides, the poster promoting the book signing said you're a best-selling author." I laughed and shook my head. "Ronnie, I'm self-published. No self-respecting publisher would touch my book with a 10-foot pole. My books are print on demand. On the rare occasion when someone orders one, they print and ship it. I tried to order 100 copies for book signings, like the one today. I accidentally ordered 1,000 copies on a slow day. For about a minute, the book was a top 100 seller on Amazon. I'm sorry, but I can't. Have you asked the sheriff to take a second look?" She gazed at me and flashed her long, dark eyelashes. "Yes, but he won't. I think he's involved in protecting someone. You won't need to do a full-blown investigation. Just prove it was murder, not suicide. You don't even have to catch the culprit. The sheriff will do that once he's forced to reopen the case." I longed to help her, but a lack of self-confidence prevented me. "Why don't you hire a private investigator?" She pursed her lips and gazed down at her hands. "I looked into it. We simply can't afford one." Behind those glasses, her candlelit eyes drew me in and cast a spell over me. My love burned deep for this woman, and I would do anything to spend more time with her. I started to agree, but reality stepped in and trumped lust. "Ronnie, I'm sorry, but I can't do it. I manage a dental practice in Savannah and need to be back at work on Monday." The local bookstore's request to do a book signing flattered and intrigued me. I decided to make it a long weekend, catch the homecoming game, see a few friends, and if lucky, sell a few books along the way. I need to clear them out of my closet. She smiled like the cat that ate the canary. "Wait a minute," I said. Did you have something to do with my book signing here? She sat upright and looked away as a slight blush shone over her face. The bookstore owner is a good friend of mine. I asked her to set it up so I could see you. It all fell into place now. The call from the bookstore had set off a series of events leading to this moment. The idea of returning to Talmadge stoked my old flames for Ronnie. When she appeared at the book signing, I fell in love with her all over again. I briefly considered honoring her request to investigate our daughter's death, but feared I would be in over my head. Others were far more qualified than me. I'm sorry, Ronnie, I can't. Guilt swelled inside me because I was rejecting her all over again. She looked away as if summoning strength. Tim said you wouldn't do it. He said I was asking too much. Who's Tim? My husband. Those two words cut me worse than any knife thrust. I thought you were divorced. Tim's my second husband. We've been married for 2 years. Ray, my first husband, and I divorced when Lorelei was 3. Not good news. This whole trip, which I couldn't afford, had been planned in the hope of reigniting my old relationship with this woman. Now my dream had been dashed. That's the end of chapter 1, and it covers a lot. There's several undercurrents throughout the book. One of them is his obsession with this woman and the struggles with that and her husband. Another one is that he has an addiction to opioids that he won't admit to, and it developed from severe back pain as a result of his dental work. So, and that is one of the strong undercurrents through that is his addiction and dealing with it. I'm going to jump to chapter 23 now. The main suspect at this point in the story is Reggie Braun, the richest man in town, who had a licentious relationship with Lorelei. And that's why he is the main suspect. And this is his first confrontation, Tanner's first confrontation with Reggie.